Hey, welcome into This Week in Indiana Football, our 30th episode, our final episode of Season 2. It is officially Bucket Week for the Indiana Hoosiers. And no, you're not dreaming. It wasn't a figment of your imagination. Indiana did win this past weekend. They took the old brass spittoon away from Michigan State on the road, in the snow, in double overtime. And that entire game, in the words of Jeffrey the Greek and Big Kurt, was just drunk on acid. Anything that you can think of, that game had, and it was an absolute pleasure to watch. Once Indiana, got back into the game, of course. But I genuinely can't believe I'm sitting here, guys, and we're talking about an Indiana football victory after everything that this season has caused us to go through once again for 2 years in a row. With me, as always, Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, of course. Mitchell Page, the walk-on turned scholarship superstar. I think I managed to say that during every episode this year. I'm very surprised that I stuck with it. I thought it was really stupid.
As untrue as it was the first time. But I do appreciate it. It gives me a little boost every time you say it. So thank you.
And then Mitchell was new to the show this year. And then our producer, Joe, the law firm Lincoln, with us as always. He is not in Bloomington this week. I can say that differently. He is coming to us from what appears to be his bedroom. And he's got some very interesting posters behind him that we were talking about before the show started. So,
yeah. Big mug.
It is Thanksgiving week as well. And before we get into our reaction of the Indiana win over Michigan State, we said something. We said we were going to do something last week if Indiana pulled off this win, and that was replay my minute 45-second rant where I'm swirling around in a chair talking about how Indiana is going to pull off this win. And what do you know? That's what we're about ready to do. Mr. Joe Lincoln has that ready for us, so fire away.
There you go.
We all know he's picking Indiana. And I mentioned this to Dustin earlier on Indiana Sports Beat. I didn't give him any context. I may not be able to give him much context here either. But I said that I had a funny feeling about this game this week. Remember last year when Indiana played Michigan State? It was kind of before the season was a complete wash. But Indiana had a chance. And I know it was at Memorial Stadium. Everyone said last year that Michigan State was kind of just winning. They weren't like winning dominantly, and they were just doing enough to win games, which is obviously what you want to do. But for some reason, I feel like with Tom Allen's back against the wall, you don't want to lose 9 consecutive conference games, which they're on their way to doing. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Obviously, I'm a fan, and that goes without being said. But I feel like Indiana's going to strum up enough to just pull this one out. And it's not going to be pretty. Indiana's going to win this one on the road, 17-13. And people are going to be shaking their heads because obviously nobody's paying attention to Indiana football anymore. The fans have moved on to basketball season, rightfully so. But I think this is the time for Indiana to at least show that they're putting forth the effort that we have subtly seen, not in the past couple of weeks with Ohio State and maybe some of the Michigan game.
They could have tried as hard as they wanted. They just were not good enough.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered with Ohio State. But that's and I may eat crow for this next week, and that's totally fine. But I think that it's going to be close regardless. I'm picking Indiana to win this 17-13.
Crow, I am not eating this week.
Come on, baby.
Your score prediction was way off. Golly.
I'll tell you what wasn't off was the fact that it wasn't pretty. My God.
That is true.
I don't like that the only week that anyone jumps on the Indiana train with me in the pick'ems, when I find all I'm trying to do is gain some ground. Not even going to gain ground on all three of you. So thank you for jumping on the train.
This is the last week.
Man.
And obviously we won't have an episode next week. I'll have Joe give me the final results, and I'll tweet those out, and we'll see who the final pick'em winner is. But yeah, we'll get into that at the end of the show. But yeah, you've heard sort of my thoughts from that replay of the rant. What do you guys think? We'll start with the alumnus, Mitchell Page.
Yeah, I mean, it was ugly. It was one of the ugliest football games of the weekend. maybe uglier than some of the games that they've played in the past just this year. Probably not. I think the game against Ohio State was uglier, but anytime you complete 2 passes, that's a recipe for disaster. But they found a way to do it. I think Michigan State had some terrible run fits, but you still have to make the play. And running backs were finding holes, and the offensive line guided the Michigan State guys even further out of their fits than they already were, and it allowed us to make some big plays. Jalen Lucas, electric once again. Sean Shivers able to accelerate a couple times, just out of nowhere. Definitely didn't see this one coming. I take him every week, almost because I feel like I have to. I didn't anticipate winning any more this year, but now look at us. Look at us now. I love it.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk?
So this is, I don't know if I'm going to sound crazy when I say this or not, but I think Saturday's win over Michigan State, considering everything that was going on, they don't have a chance to go to a bowl game. They were down 24-7, and they gave up 24 straight points because they scored the first touchdown of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Might be one of Tom Allen's best coaching performances of his career at Indiana, because we talked with Don Fisher on Indiana Sports Beat, and he said the team looked dejected heading to the locker room. Heads were down, basically like the season they had cashed it in already. So you were just expecting them to get beat 42-7 in this game. So for them to find some sort of juice in the locker room at halftime, for him to fire up a team that had basically mailed it in, I think is pretty impressive. And at this point in the season, look, we knew they weren't playing for anything. So to me, it almost doesn't matter how it looks. It wasn't pretty, but you were able to find a way to win. And now you carry some momentum into this week against Purdue. And as much as we've railed on this team and how poorly they've performed, you're talking about a way different offseason if you go 5-7 with 2 wins in your final 2 games against rivalry opponents than we were just talking a few weeks ago if you end 3-9. So I was impressed. I texted you guys, like, I didn't watch. I turned it off at halftime because I figured the game was over.
So did
like
I.
I've seen this movie before, and then I saw that Indiana got within a touchdown, and I was like, oh, I better turn this back on. So just overall, I was impressed with the mentality that they didn't roll over. I thought in the previous couple of weeks against Penn State, against Ohio State, they kind of rolled over. I expected the same thing to happen, but they didn't. So you have to give credit to the players, to the staff. I don't know what Tom Allen said at halftime, but it worked.
Yeah. We talked about it a lot early in the season about how this Indiana team had a lot of resiliency. All of the games they won, the first 3 games they played, came back against Illinois, came back against Idaho, came back against Western Kentucky, and the losing streak came. But this past weekend, we saw shades of what we saw early in the season. Maybe Tom Allen is just the best halftime coach of all time, and we really don't know it. We just have seen it only 4 times this year, right? So that could be the case. Or maybe he just spurred up something that and no one had ever heard before. But it's honestly, sitting on the couch on Saturday and watching that game felt like a little bit of a fever dream. Again, like halftime, it was just, there's no way, there's no shot. And then Sean Shivers breaks off that huge touchdown run in the very beginning of the second half. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, this team still has some juice left. And lo and behold, they came all the way back, got a little lucky at the end with a missed field goal from the Michigan State kicker, which, by the way, what was he doing? He was sitting up right behind the ball for a angled kick. I'm like, dude, it didn't look good from the very beginning.
Dude,
the snow was weird. There were snowmen in the stands. Perfect storm for an Indiana win. And I think that absolutely, Dustin, you're correct. 5-7 sounds a whole lot better than 3-9, and Indiana now has something to chase for in the offseason. And obviously, Purdue's going to be a huge game next week. So, whole lot to play for thanks to second to last week win this past weekend.
Yeah,
Indiana had a
one thing
90.
real quick, John. I'm going to interject one thing because now we've both talked. You guys have both talked about it. It really becomes if you have these 2 wins at the end of the season. Recruiting is all storytelling, especially at a place like Indiana. Tom Allen's talked about how they don't have the NIL funds just yet. So you're not just buying players. It's a true story that you're telling. A 3-9 team that's coming off 9 straight losses, that story is nobody wants to read that story. But if you talk about a 5-7 team that lost 7 straight, but was able to turn it around in their own mind at halftime in East Lansing and win 2 rivalry games on the road, or is this next one on the road? I think they play at Purdue, right?
No, Indiana at home.
Okay, good, even better. So you come back home and keep the bucket in Indiana. I mean, that's a story. You're able to go out and tell these kids it was ugly in the beginning, and we need you. We need your help. But we've got a core, and we've got values, and we can fight. That's a story that kids will listen to. Parents will listen to. That's a lifelong kind of thing that you can teach as a coach. So it sets you up to be able to go out and tell a story in the offseason, find some kids that'll buy into that and are willing to take some bumps to hopefully create something and get a little momentum that I think we had when he first got there that we've definitely lost a little, but hopefully the story helps bring it back.
Yeah, Indiana had a 98% chance to lose the game at halftime. I'm actually trying to pull up what they had right before Michigan State botched that field goal because I'm sure it was up close to that same percentage. But for some reason, that missed field goal by Michigan State reminds me so much of the touchdown that Indiana gave up to Penn State on purpose back at the beginning of the 2020 season. I don't know if it'll have the same kind of lasting effects, obviously, because Indiana obviously missed a field goal of their own in the first round of overtime. But it was one of those moments where once it happened, it didn't matter. I was like, Indiana's going to win this game in overtime. I don't feel like when you've done something, when you've already had the game in your hands and you just let the jaws of defeat snatch it right out of you.
Yeah,
it just seems like you can never get that kind of momentum back.
It felt like the air just left the stadium. The air went out of the balloon. There was nothing left. And then the kid missed another one or got it blocked their first possession. So, I mean, you just feel there's no momentum, maybe a little after Indiana gets theirs blocked, but you give up a touchdown on our first or on our second possession, give up the 2-point conversion, and it just never felt like it was a Michigan State team that was going to win a game after something like that happens to you 2 times in a row, especially.
By the way, what the hell was Mel Tucker thinking?
Dude.
I don't know. Okay, so this is – I've said this before too. If it's a 50-degree day and it's not much wind, then I'm fine with you settling for the field goal and trying to win there. But when you're in those kind of circumstances, it's cold, it's hard to kick the football, snow, a lot of wind, wet ground – I don't know why you would not try to score. Like, they were actively not trying to score a touchdown, it felt like, at the end of that game.
With 2 seconds left, Michigan State had a 95.5% chance of victory. So that 4.5% chance came to fruition for the Hoosiers, which, like I said, harkens back to the beginning of the 2020 season.
Yeah, and I think something that's going to go not really talked about in your point, Dustin, is if this was at Indiana, that's a different game because they're playing on turf.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan State's grass is not the kind of fly grass that you get at other stadiums. It's the northern straight up and down long grass that grabs and gets really slick, and you play a full game on it in the snow. There's guys diving and sliding all over the place. It's muddy. It's wet. It sucks. The ground's all beat up and choppy. Yeah, I mean that's something that's not even going to get talked about. I hadn't thought about, but it was so much more likely that he was going to miss that kick now that you think about it that way. I hadn't even thought about that.
I mean, I remember they did try to score because they ran 2 plays on first and second down, but I believe they let the clock run down to like whatever it was, 4 seconds, and didn't even run a third down play.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand that at all. I was yelling at the TV, like, I don't have a vested interest in this game, but I'm yelling at the TV, like, what the hell are you doing?
Did they have a timeout?
I think they used their last one before that field goal.
Yeah, so I guess they could have run one more play if they wanted.
Yeah, so the only thing that – because sometimes teams do that, and I'm sure you guys know this, but – You kick the ball on third down. If you still have a timeout, just in case you fumble the snap, you tell the holder just fall on it and we'll kick it again. But if they use their timeout, that wouldn't make any sense because the kid's not going to get up and spike it.
Right.
What they should have done is use that last play to level up their field goal kick, going right in the middle of the field instead of being on the edge where they were.
Yeah. I mean, it was a wild ending. It felt like there was a million things he could have done. He didn't do any of them. And instead you give your guy a chip shot, but from the far left hash. And that's a harder kick than you think, especially in the conditions. And he wasn't even close. He was not even close.
Can I change directions here for a second? Does anyone mind?
Of course.
No, go ahead.
All right. One thing that I think we need to touch on that we haven't talked about yet in this game. How about Dexter Williams, man?
Yeah.
What a gamer. I mean, you talk about a guy who's going to be starting again. I hope he's going to be starting against Purdue. I think he's earned that right at this point. I would 100 times out of 100 want him starting in the biggest rivalry game for Indiana this year, way more than Connor Bazelak. That kid, you could tell just seeing him on the sidelines before both the Indiana kick and the Michigan State kick, how much he wanted to win that game. And that wasn't just for him. I think that was for the whole state of the team, for Tom Allen. I mean, there is a genuine interest and investment in that kid in this program, and that's huge. Yeah. That's another selling point that you talk about, Mitchell. I mean, it's just something that you can tell that this means something, even though it is a broken season. He knows that there's stuff to play for, and I think that is huge momentum-wise. I think that the offense now has someone to look to, and they can trust a little more now that he's got a win under his belt. I don't think he had a win before last week, so I think that the added momentum, the trust factor, everything filters into that last week of the season. And I'm not saying that all things are looking up, but there is at least a positive momentum in one aspect of the game. So hats off to that guy because he really played his butt off on Saturday and left it all out there.
Absolutely. And you think about it, he completed 2 passes. So he wasn't getting deep coverage. There was 7, 8, 9 guys that were probably 6 yards from the line of scrimmage on every single down. And they were still able to score 39 points. I think I saw a couple times the deepest safety was at 9 yards, and that's essentially cover 0. So they're bringing more than we can block, and we're still able to produce first downs and win a game that we really had no business winning with where we were heading and where I think Michigan State was trending. It didn't look good. And when you are able to bow up, I totally agree with you, Joe. There's a couple really positive things that you take from this game, and a lot of them have to do with individual players. There's still a lot of things to clean up front, but there's guys, when you ask who's going to make a play, young guys are stepping up. Jalen Lucas, Dexter Williams. Dasan McCullough continues to just be phenomenal. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of positive things, a lot of good stories to tell if you're Tom Allen going into the offseason. And this win definitely helped him in the offseason not have to deal with some of the stuff that he was likely going to have to deal with if it was 3-9.
Yeah, I'd like to see how Dexter Williams will perform in good conditions, because obviously we know he's mobile. He's going to be able to give Indiana that option on the ground whenever conditions aren't ideal. And it's looking like it's going to be kind of a similar situation in terms of conditions this weekend in the bucket game with a 70% chance of rain. And so obviously you're not dealing with snow, but you're dealing with conditions that are once again going to hinder your passing attack. So you're probably going to see a lot of the same similar style game plan from Indiana this weekend, I would assume.
Do you know how, this is kind of a weird question, maybe it doesn't say on there, but is it like thunderstorms, downpour rain, or is it just a drizzle?
It looks just like, it's not showing storm chance, so I'm just assuming rain.
Because I just know some, from my experience at least, you get a little drizzle and the ball gets a little damp, the grip gets way better and you can get extra explosive on offense. The ball just flies a little better. The ground gets faster, especially that turf. It can be some of your biggest offensive days, especially if it's just drizzling in the warmups and then clears up during the game. That's something to look out for. Depending on how rainy it is, you may see some fireworks, which could be good or bad because Purdue is pretty explosive on offense.
This is something somebody explained. A former player explained this to me once too, and I never thought about it because you always think the elements, you always think it's going to hurt the offense, but and you expect a defensive game. But he told me, he was like, in certain cases, it will help the offense because they know the routes they're running, they know where they're going. The defense is, I mean, they're basically guessing.
Yeah.
So, you put a double move on them, it's hard for them to get traction. It's hard for them to change direction. So it's something that's interesting. I hadn't looked at the forecast, but that could be a huge factor. But do you think the elements play a bigger factor in this? Or do you think Dexter Williams hasn't thrown the ball a lot anyway? If Purdue plays cover 0 and you're Indiana, why wouldn't you take a few deep shots? Their secondary isn't good anyway. Purdue's secondary is not. So try to get a few deep YOLO shots.
Yeah, I mean, we did that. We would get that defense when Xander Diamant was playing quarterback. And I think Dexter Williams' arm, I love Xander, and that kid, God, if we had him leading the team, we'd be in a much better position because that kid was just a phenomenal leader, but his arm wasn't super strong. Even when we would take shots with him, it just backs the defense off. Even when we'll do it. We may not complete it, but we're not afraid to throw that shot. It gives you the half step before a guy pins his ears back, and it makes it easier on the line, makes routes easier, and makes the quarterback's reads happen. Or maybe he has 3 seconds usually, or 2.5 seconds, as it's kind of felt like. He may get up to 3 seconds, and that can be all the difference. If you get that extra half second, you never know what kind of rhythm you can get.
Will Dexter Williams consume a victory cigar similar to Xander Diamant if they're able to pull this one off on
I don't
Saturday?
think anyone in the history of the program has had as much swag as Xander Diamant. So
I would love to have his confidence.
Yeah, us 4 combined, we're not even sniffing it.
I'm curious.
And I'm a
what
pretty
he's
confident
even up to.
guy.
I just remember him and his dad was the former soap opera star. They always talked about that whenever Indiana was on
his
national
dad was
broadcast.
sexiest man alive. Get it right. Maxim, sexiest man alive.
Wow.
Well, that's a real thing.
Yeah, Don Diamant, he's the man. I love that family.
Soap opera, was he not? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, it's like Days of Our Lives or something. I don't know what it is, but one of those. I went on my visit to Duke. His little brother Luca is either in his last year or second to last year. He went there on a football scholarship. Went there as a quarterback, but is now playing some receiver. Tore his ACL, but I was able to see Luca. So it's big family affair in college football. His youngest brothers are like 6'6", 6'7" now, and they're just massive, which is complete opposite of Xander.
Okay, so there's no chance we see another Diamant in a Hoosier uniform. More than likely, right?
No. The younger boys' last names are not Diamant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to Xander Diamant. Who knows what he's up to nowadays?
Dude, I just talked to him. I love that guy. If he's listening, call me, kid. You never text me back.
Yeah, we'd love to have. What we need to do next year, I know we talked about this early on in this season, and then things didn't pan out very well. We need to get some more former players to join us.
Yeah.
Especially from your era, because that's the era that I grew up enjoying. So, I would love to relive some of that.
He grew up when you were playing college football, Mitchell. How do you feel about that?
Grew up. I say grew up. We're not like that far off in age, obviously, but that's when I really started to get a vested interest in college football.
Yeah, that was said a little better. That made me feel like Jim.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I'm 25 years old. What are you, 30?
Relax, 29.
Okay, close enough. When's your 30th birthday?
Not for a long time.
Oh, I was hoping it was like next week or something. That would have been really funny.
No, July 19th.
So you're going to be married before you turn 30. That's nice little.
That's correct.
Yeah. We're getting off the rails here. So one thing I said before we get into pick'ems, since we're kind of wrapping things up, it seems like already, I told everybody to come with. This is actually before Indiana came back as well. I said, we're not going to talk about this game. Everyone bring a topic not related to football. And then Dustin said, let's talk about Thanksgiving. So did anybody bring something random up prepared, since we didn't actually bring that to? Oh, here we go. Mitchell's showing the Team USA Jersey.
Yeah. We can talk about Thanksgiving, enjoy your families, whatever. That is so secondary. We have the most important thing going on in the entire country is Friday at 2 p.m. I don't care
That's
about
right,
your families.
England.
Yeah, I don't care about your families. Don't eat too much. Don't drink too much. You need to be up early on Friday. Go to whatever bar you need to go to, wherever the watch party is. We need to be loud enough that they can hear us in Qatar. Because we clearly weren't loud enough on Monday.
Where were you on Monday?
Watching at work. We had a watch party
So was
at work.
I.
We had a watch party at work.
So you're going to be doing this when you won't be working
No.
on Friday.
No,
Which
no,
bar
no.
are you going to down in Charleston?
Pretty
Where
sweet
can
name
people
for it,
find
actually.
you?
My Father's Mustache. It's on Sullivan's Island. Yeah.
There's our hashtag, our final hashtag for the 2022 season.
My
hashtag,
father's mustache.
My father's mustache.
Come see me and Laura.
Doesn't Bill Murray owns a bar in downtown, doesn't he? Isn't there like a Chicago team bar and he's part owner of the Charleston River Dogs?
Yeah, he's down here all the time. He lives on Isle of Palms, I think. I have never seen him. You know who I have seen a couple times? They film a show here. Danny McBride. Danny McBride, Eastbound and Down. Is
Okay.
You would remember him.
Yep.
One of my favorite actors, man. He's so funny. So Taylor Swift just bought a house in Isle of Palms as well. Never seen her, but Charleston's a good place. If you want to come watch a soccer game with me, Laura, maybe the dog, come out to My Father's Mustache.
There we go.
Dustin, give me your since you know everything about U.S. soccer. Give me your best take right now.
U.S. is going to beat England.
I guess that's all we need to hear. Mr. Law Firm, do you watch the World Cup?
Yeah, I thought we were way too conservative in the second half, didn't press offensively at all, and that cost us the match, and it did not make me happy. I am not a soccer guy usually, but I can pick up on game trends. Whoever's coaching the U.S., I know I heard his name. Mitchell.
Greg Berhalter.
Yeah.
There you go. Dude needs to be aggressive because we've got no shot unless we're scoring more than one goal. England scored 4 in their first game.
6.
Wow,
6.
6. That's
4
right.
goal
Yeah,
difference.
4.
Yeah.
It comes down to one thing, guys. Don't make a stupid tackle in the penalty box to give them a penalty kick. That's it. That's the reason they beat or drew us.
They were going to
move on from
regardless,
soccer.
I think the penalty was just there. They were pressing the entire second half. It was just something that was bound to happen.
It felt like we were on the back foot the entire time. There was a lot of chances when you watch the game again, and this is all from Twitter. This is all secondary. I am not the initial primary guy that did this research, but the U.S. would get out in transition on counterattack or whatever it was, and there was windows. There were passes to be made. When you look on the right side, there's a guy, Tim Weah, that is laser fast, extremely aggressive. He was getting in behind. There were angles to be taken advantage of, and passes weren't made. So hopefully we're going to need to make those passes against England. Because anybody watch their first game? Like watch it?
No, I just saw the score and was like, holy crap, we play them on Friday.
It could have been 10. They're a problem.
There you go. A little World Cup for you on this Indiana football podcast.
I've not watched 1 second of any World Cup.
Dustin hates soccer. He lives in Georgia. He goes hiking with his dog. And that's
I do that. I do that. I don't hate soccer. I just don't enjoy it. And
it's
therefore,
a way better sport than football.
I am also not going to – I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to pretend to just fit in on Twitter. I am who I am. I am what I am. I might be an idiot. That's fine. But I'm not changing. I'm not changing.
That's fair.
He's going to stick with his hikes in Kennesaw with Biscuit, which are great. I love seeing his Instagram stories with that play the cool music. It makes me want to live in the mountains. And, there you go. He lives in Florida anyway. It's not like he lives in Georgia anymore.
I'm moving back, though. I can't take it here no more. I'm moving back.
There you go.
You can't take it down no mo.
Find Dustin in the mountains of Georgia. You find Mitchell on the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. Find Joe somewhere in Indiana, and I'm in Kentucky. So
the hills of
there
Kentucky.
You go.
He's a hill jack.
I'm a what? A hill jack? Is that what you said?
You never heard that before?
No, it's a hill jack.
It's you.
What is it?
Have you never heard the term hilljack before?
No, there must be
it's-
something that people who don't live in Kentucky call people from Kentucky.
They would probably call people from Indiana that.
That is true.
Will be my
A
guess.
hill jack.
It's like
I'm
hillbilly.
assuming you're like hot. It's see, I'm getting the idea of like feral people. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
essentially. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, with that, pick'ems. Let's go ahead and Joe, give us our final update before we get into our final week of pick'ems.
So we've got a little bit of, I won't say controversy, because we've talked about this behind the scenes a little bit, what's gone on. Obviously, I joined the show week 2. So I am still 3 games behind. We've talked about this before, and I have decided by myself that this week I did rankings by win percentage. So it is all squared up, but I'm going to give you all a little bit of an option here. If you want to be on your, if John, you want to be on your toes, anyone else, actually,
Let's
it can
do
work.
it. We got to make it interesting. It's the final week.
I agree. So
This is going to take some thinking, I
if
think.
we do our pick'ems, I will allow all of you to pick one game for me to pick on so we can be even numbers to make it even Steven, no games, no anything. We can make it just 100% correct. Because I want to be
something weird out of the big
winner by
sky.
win percentage.
I'm
like
looking for
that.
something out of
Yeah.
an FCS conference.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
the
going to do
FCS
some
is in
bad
the-
radio right now.
Are they in the
AFC
playoffs?
Yeah, they're in the playoffs, so there's no
we can't
regular
do
season
that,
game
then.
left.
Yeah, if we can keep it in, college football playoff ranking.
I'm going to
eligible
D3.
teams.
When is the wow? I thought I was Washington rewards Kalen DeBoer with a 2-year extension.
Yep, he ain't going to Nebraska, which is where I thought that was
I'm
going to be.
glad he's
headed.
not going to Nebraska.
Well,
I think you should do number 21 Tulane versus number 25 Cincinnati because Cincinnati's only a 2-point favorite.
That's a
Where's the
pretty
game being played at?
I believe it's at Cincinnati, or it could be. It's not a conference championship, so no. Yeah, it's at Cincinnati.
Okay. Can I have until we do our picks to pick? Can I have some time to mull it over in
Of
my
course.
mind?
yeah,
Of
we
course.
should give you. Yeah, all right.
All right.
Are we
So
giving?
I'm gonna go ahead and say, if you want to keep looking, I'm going to go ahead and say the standings real quick, so we know where we're at. So, jumping me into first place again by win percentage. It is not John, the producer. It is actually Mitchell Page. So Mitchell is back in first. That Indiana pick really boosted him up. And he also took Iowa to cover with me. So, Dustin, I just want to tell you that because I got a little bit of no. Actually, he did pick Iowa to cover. So you changed your pick at the very end, didn't you?
I don't remember.
I
I'm going to
guess.
take your word for it.
Regardless, Mitchell is in first. I am in second. In third place is John, and finally Dustin. You are in fourth place, but you can make up the difference this week.
Okay, so it can still anybody's game. It's good that we're all on this. We've gone the whole season, and nobody's pulled away from this one.
I would pull away if
No,
I
it's
chose
very,
against Indiana.
very, very easy.
I just want that to be known. I'd be dominating you guys.
That's actually a fair point considering
you're
you're
welcome.
winning right now.
You're welcome.
You would be 4 games, probably 4 games ahead at least.
5.
5, okay, 5.
Yeah, come on, man. After they got beat by Nebraska, they're looking
That's
terrible.
true.
Yeah,
That's true. Well, would you have picked him last week though? Because you might have lost that one.
Yeah, you would have picked.
Oh,
Michigan
that's
State.
true. That's true. I would have picked against them every week. Just kidding. I picked him against Ohio State because I meant it.
That's it.
All right, moving forward. First game this week that's taking place on Friday is Nebraska at Iowa in the battle for the Heroes Trophy. Isn't that what it's called? The Heroes Trophy game or something like that? The new rivalry that was instituted back whenever Nebraska joined the conference.
We're gonna
Iowa
pause
10
right
and a
here.
half. What do you
We're gonna
got?
pause right here. Speaking of new rivalries, Dustin,
Uh-huh.
how about Dabo Sweeney taking the most ricochet shot of all
Yeah,
time
what the hell?
at Indiana for no
He
reason?
did.
He's probably never even been in the state of Indiana. I guess they
No.
went to Notre Dame. But, I mean, what is that about?
I have no idea. That was
Just a preposterous shot. that's like throwing it into. I don't even know I can't even compare anything.
Does Tom Allen need to schedule a home and home with Clemson immediately?
No.
No, I would not do that.
No,
That's not a good way to prove your point.
But we can be mad about it.
We can.
I mean, that was crazy.
That was insane to not know that. I don't know what crossed his mind. Does he think Northwestern's in Indiana? I'm very confused.
Let's give people some context in case you didn't see what they're talking about. There was a comment made saying that there's the people in Indiana and Northwestern don't care about their rivalry game apparently between each other that's supposed to happen this week, even though they are not rivals. They're not in the same state. And what else is there to say?
Yeah, and it's a prominent head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney, who props himself up as this holier-than-thou man. He's cheated for years. I mean, I was on a team with guys that just said, yeah, this is what was happening. Mike Williams had crazy money in his bank account before he refreshed to get his signing bonus, and I know that wasn't from back home. He's just been cheating for years, and he's going to take a ricochet shot at Indiana, who's just had their only win in the last 2 months. For what?
Yeah, I don't know.
He goes on to say,
for what?
No offense to Indiana Northwestern at the very end. What do you mean no offense?
Yeah, that's like no offense, but you're ugly. Like that is completely offensive.
You know, it reminds me of the scene in Talladega Nights. He's like, you can't just say no offense.
And then say something that's super offensive.
With all due respect.
Yeah. Well, it sure as heck does. It's in the Geneva Convention. Look it up.
Schedule a home and home with Clemson.
Unreal.
Let's do it.
Sorry to interrupt. That was a bananas quote.
I can't believe we skimmed over this. I forgot to include that.
Although somebody did say, what would that rivalry trophy be? And I laughed out loud in my house by myself because somebody said the golden typewriter. I thought that was pretty perfect.
That does have me thinking. I wish I would have thought of something we could have, everyone have their own rivalry trophy for that game.
Could just be a big L.
I was gonna. Hey, Illinois Northwestern do play for the LOL trophy.
Nah,
the Land of Lincoln.
Land of Lincoln.
Oh,
trophy,
okay.
yes.
Okay. I thought that was it.
All right.
Let's
move forward. Nebraska at Iowa for the Heroes Trophy, and for at least for Iowa for Big Ten West
supremacy.
So there you go. 10.5 point favorites, for Iowa. Over under at 38. Dustin.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Nebraska's going to come out with something because it's the last game of the year, but their offense has scored 14 points or less in each of the last 4 games. Iowa's got the best defense in the country. I think Iowa wins. I got them covering too. I think they'll have like a 13 or 14 point cover.
I don't love the 10.5. I've got to be honest, especially with an Iowa team that their offense is very shaky. The defense is going to be there. We know that, but I don't know if their offense can play under the pressure that they're under. I think that they win the game, and I am going to take them to cover, but I'm going to say that very hesitantly because for some reason it just doesn't seem like a high-scoring game. I don't know how cold it's going to be there, but I can just see them not being able to run the ball effectively. And I'm going to say that they'll cover, but that's because I already kind of gave my thing to Iowa last week that their offense is better than everyone thinks it is. So I'll stick to that train.
Joe really going out on a limb saying it's not going to be a high-scoring game in a game involving Iowa.
Yeah, it's supreme analysis.
The weather's going to be a huge factor, Dustin.
Yeah. These are 2 teams that I've picked against, I think, in every week. I hate both of these teams. They're both terrible to me. Iowa's really good on defense, but Spencer Petras is miserable. But I think Nebraska is worse. So I think Iowa wins like 21-0 because Nebraska throws it to Iowa a couple times. And that's the game. It feels like if Iowa scores 1 point, that's going to be enough to win. That's where I'm coming from.
I have the same sort of confidence.
Yeah.
So I guess there's not so much else to be said. Iowa obviously going for their second straight division crown, and so I don't think the pressure is going to be too much. I think
That's
they'll
going
take
to
care
be
of
a
Nebraska.
shellacking in the Big Ten championship, whoever it is.
So go ahead and give me Iowa to cover. I love that. They only need 1 point.
I seriously think if they get a safety, it's game over.
That's 2 points.
Iowa's gotten 2 safeties in a game.
That's
and
right.
A
It
field
was,
goal and one.
wasn't it South Dakota State or
Whoever
whoever the
it
heck
was.
they played in week 2?
They got 2 safeties and a field goal and won the game. So, I mean, you decide.
That is an all-time quote. If Iowa gets a safety, it's game over.
It's game over. They get a safety on the first possession. Call it. Is that at Nebraska?
I think it's at. I'm pretty sure
It's at Iowa. I wish we had Jeffrey the Greek on tomorrow so we could take this quote and play it for him.
You
he
can
might
play whatever
appreciate
you
it.
want. I'll send it to him. I'll call him right now. He's had to watch
Oh,
Spencer
man.
Petras all year. I think that's worse than watching Indiana, to be honest.
I just
just
can't
have a
believe you
bad
can have a
feeling.
quarterback who's that or an offense that's this terrible, and you're probably going to win your division. That just shows how good your defense actually is.
Oh my gosh, they're unreal.
All right,
It's
moving
suffocating.
forward, we're talking too much about the freaking Iowa Hawkeyes and Nebraska Cornhuskers. Next up,
Big Ten
Rutgers at Maryland. They don't have a trophy game. They should have their own trophy by now. They've been in the conference long
The
enough.
Outsiders Bowl.
There you go. That makes sense. Sponsored by Outsider.com.
like the crab cake bowl.
They should play for some coffee, some Outsider coffee.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think
Look at
Dustin
that.
missed
Another
that.
free plug for the coffee.
That's a free ad for Outsider.com.
My bad.
Hey,
My bad, guys.
I'm still drinking the coffee. It's actually
There you
gone,
go.
but I'm still drinking it on the daily. But Maryland is a 14-point favorite at home. Over under set at 49. Mr. Shooty, what do you have?
Maryland's offense finally going to unleash. Rutgers' defense has had to play like 59 minutes of a 60-minute game 12 times this season. So I'm going to pick Maryland to win and cover big.
Yeah, after some last-minute research here and seeing that Taulia is going to play in this game because he just bruised his knee apparently, I think that changes the game a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and also take Maryland to cover.
Yeah, Terps.
me
Indiana almost
Terps.
beat Maryland, which is shocking. Indiana's
And,
actually
as
like,
much as
playing
Indiana
teams so
really,
tough.
if they were halfway competent in some of the games they lost, they could have 3 more wins easily.
Easily,
They-
yeah.
I don't understand. They shouldn't have lost to Maryland.
Or Nebraska or Rutgers.
When Taulia was in the game, they were beating him up.
Anyway, enough about that. I'm taking Maryland to win, but Rutgers covers.
You're nuts.
If it
I
was,
lost my fidget toy.
if it was
That's why I
just
keep going down.
one, if they would have just won one of those, you're talking about bowl eligibility on the line this weekend.
Hey, and on a rare, let's just say Indiana beats Purdue. They do take 5 and 7 teams on occasion based on academic scores. I don't know where Indiana sits in that, but
Is that
Who
really
knows?
what it's based on?
I'm
Yes.
pretty sure, right, Dustin?
It's based off your APR score.
Oh, well, no wonder we never went. I was on the team. That's on me, guys. Can we call the 2012 through 2014 teams and tell them I apologize?
All right. This is the best round of pick'ems we've ever done. I love the laughing. All right, next up, Minnesota at Wisconsin for is this the Paul Bunyan Zacks?
Yes, sir.
Isn't there 2 Paul Bunyan trophies in this conference? One of them's between Michigan State and something, isn't it?
No,
It's really stupid.
what the Paul Bunyan Trophy is Michigan State. Paul Bunyan's axe is Wisconsin, Minnesota. We
don't
really need to
2 Paul
decide
Bunyan
where the
themed
hell
trophies.
Paul Bunyan was actually from.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, Wisconsin favored by 3 at home, over under at 36. This over under is actually lower than the Iowa Nebraska game.
Yeah, this is going to be Minnesota Iowa part 2, I believe. Look, neither quarterback can throw the ball, so this might be the quickest game we've seen this season, as in 2.5 hours, because both teams are going to run it 100 times. I think Graham Mertz is going to throw a couple picks. Minnesota is going to grind it out. Minnesota wins, and let's see. Yeah, if they win, they cover, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been an avid Wisconsin doubter for this entire season of Pick'ems. I think that is validated because I think they're sticking with Graham Mertz. I don't think they really have another option, but their running game has also not been there. I said something about Braylon Allen. He really hasn't been the same running back he was last year. He's been okay. He's been passable, but I think that them being favored is just flat wrong. I don't understand the 3-point spread here. So regardless of the win or loss, I'm going to take Minnesota to cover because I think that it will be a single digit game, could be a field goal or less. So let's just go ahead and put that out there. And I'm going to go ahead and have the Golden Gophers cover this week.
Count me in. That was so much smarter analysis than I could give. So I'm going to just piggyback you.
Yep. Give me the Gophs. Roll the boat.
And this is also some strategy for me.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
need-
Because you
I
got
don't
to
need to
maintain.
I don't need to be taking crazy picks.
This is why everybody should make their picks before we do the show, because then you can't change your mind. Like I
Well, it's not
the whole year though, and we haven't made it a rule though. So I think that
Well,
it
that's
is
true.
to make that a rule. Is
I'm not saying we should say that's just the way it should be, but hey, it is what it is. All right.
okay.
We've got a few more. Next up, Illinois at Northwestern for the Land of Lincoln Trophy, we said. Illinois,
Illini.
14-point favorites on the road. Over-unders set at 38. A lot of low over-unders. this
Illini.
week.
Yep.
Illini. See, no changing now.
November football
No
in the Big
changing
Ten.
now, baby.
Team with one win.
I'm going the Illini too. I'm going the Illini to cover. Chase Brown is unbelievable.
He's the best. He's so
Yeah,
good.
he is really good, and
Yeah.
I'm going to say the exact same thing.
See,
Give me
you guys just
the
follow me
Illini.
now, baby. That's follow the
That's
leader.
right. I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
Illinois covers. I've lost my second of 3 fidget toys. I've only got one left. Keep dropping them on the floor. Moving forward to
What?
Michigan State at number 11, Penn State in the – they have the land grant trophy is what it's called, right?
Yep.
There we
It's an
go.
ugly trophy.
Penn State favored by 18. I feel like that's almost right on the money. Over-under set at 52.5. Dustin.
I don't know how Michigan State's going to stop Penn State's rushing attack. Indiana ran all over Michigan State, and Penn State's rushing attack is way better. So I think Penn State pounds Michigan State. So that would be a cover.
Did anyone see Nick Singleton's kickoff return last week?
Anyone
Unbelievable.
see Jalen Lucas?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That kid kicked off out of a cannon. Him and Jalen Lucas they're different runners, but they have the same sort of vision when it comes to the open field. Also, I don't know how he runs like that without like turning an ankle every time because he kind of waddles like this. I don't know how he does it, but he is lightning quick. And I think you're right, Dustin, that they will run the ball all over Michigan State. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Nittany Lions to cover.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another really short game, but it's going to be like 35-7 or something. I don't even think this is going to be close at all. Penn State.
Give me the Nittany's to cover. I thought more people would take Michigan State for some reason. I don't know why, but all right, we got 2 left. We have the Old Oaken Bucket and the game. I should do based on, I should give the game of the week to Michigan and Ohio State because they are both 11-0. But this is a freaking Indiana football podcast, okay?
Yeah,
we're doing that game last.
I'm kind of upset that Indiana's not game of the week every week.
I think it's what I'm doing from now on. I think I was just pissed because they weren't any good this year. So
That's
from
fair.
now on, we're doing Indiana's game last.
Game
We're starting
of the
it this
week.
But we're not doing that just yet because of that. So next up is number 3 Michigan at number 2 Ohio State. Major playoff implications, but we do not know if Mr. Blake Corum is going to be playing for the Wolverines as they travel to Columbus. Currently, Ohio State is a 7.5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 57. Mr. Shooty.
I would be willing to bet a large amount of money that Blake Corum plays in some capacity in this game.
Oh, yeah. He's out there
so-
handing out turkeys.
Yeah, he is handing out turkeys. That's pretty awesome, by the way. Using
He does
that
that
NIL
every
money.
year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He's a legend.
I actually think Michigan's going to win. I think Michigan's
Wow.
going to beat Ohio State. I don't know why. I think they play more physical. I think that they run the ball more effectively. The only thing I would say is if Ohio State can get pressure and force them into third and medium or third and long. I think that and force Michigan to throw. I think advantage Ohio State. I just think that Corum's going to play. He's going to get some sort of extra adrenaline because it's Ohio State. He may not look 100%, but maybe like 85, 90. And I think he's going to have a big day. Michigan wins, goes to the Big Ten championship.
All righty. I like that. I do. I like that. With that being said, I have some other thoughts. So here's the deal. Blake Corum is so much bigger to Michigan than anybody really thinks he is. And people think that he is a lot of Michigan. Golly, he is a lot of that Michigan team. And I think he's the heartbeat of that team. Obviously, the offense really depends on him to get the numbers that he does every game. And he honestly should be the Heisman favorite at this point, because I don't think that Caleb Williams playing in a horrible defense, Pac-12, he's put up the numbers, but I don't think he's had the competition. CJ Stroud has struggled in multiple games that really haven't been talked about. Corum has been consistent, but if he is banged up, and I think he is banged up, he's going to be playing through an injury. I think that JT Tumilau, Jack Sawyer are going to swallow him up around the outsides, outside the tackles. It's going to be tough for him to run up the middle too. I also think safeties that Ohio State has, like Lathan Ransom, can really cover sideline to sideline. So that can take away the passing game as well from J.J. McCarthy. So I think that Ohio State is going to win and cover.
I was kind of tossing and turning on this. I think both these teams are as beatable as they've been in a long time for each other, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, Ohio State was way better one year. Last year, it felt like Michigan was way better at the time. It just, for whatever reason, Ohio State struggled on offense. They've got some good receivers. They haven't connected the way they did with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Obviously, those are 2 first-round picks. Jackson Smith and Jigba hasn't played a ton. So you've got new guys that are in there. They've been okay on defense. Michigan hasn't been awesome outside of running the ball and the couple tight ends that they have. I think Michigan's really good on defense. They're really good on the offensive line. We may have to see how good their running back room is as opposed to their starting running back. I think this game is more interesting than it's been in a long time. I think Michigan, it's a lot. Blake Corum is phenomenal. He is. But when you have an offensive line like Michigan has, it's a lot easier to replace a running back than it is wide receivers with a quarterback, because that requires so much timing. And when you've got speed like Michigan has on defense, it's just hard to make things go the way that Ohio State is used to making things go. Marvin Harrison's been okay. He hasn't been great. They've had some other kids that just aren't great. It just is it's easier to replace a running back. Michigan is just going to bang and bang and bang, and it'll be close and close and close, and then Ohio State just gets tired. It's hard to have those big guys wearing on you. I don't know what the spread is. It's got to be pick 'em.
7.5. Ohio State.
Are you kidding? That's Michigan easy. Whew. Easy. I think Michigan wins by a touchdown.
See, and I'm in the mindset of Ohio State is embarrassed they lost in the Big House last year. You know, things are going their way right now. Obviously, things are going both their way. Michigan's questionable with Blake Corum, but like you said, they may have more guns or more bullets in the gun than we realize. They could help them out without them. But for some reason, I just feel like Ohio State is out for them, and I think they're going to win by like 14. 21, somewhere around that. Not because they're that much better than Michigan, but it's one of those games where when Ohio State gets out, if Michigan doesn't have an answer at the time, they don't let off the gas, and they'll cover that 7.5 point spread at home.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the one more thing I'm going to say in favor of Ohio State in this is we've waited all season for kind of their offense to
explode.
In which they're the highest. They're the best offense in the Big Ten, so this is very nitpicky. But at the same time, it just hasn't looked like the right Ohio State. I also wonder if there's some plays in the playbook that Ryan Day hasn't dialed up yet and is saving for this game because last year they got beat by Michigan and he knows that can't happen again. Yeah. So that's something that's in the back of my mind. I just don't know that it's going to be enough to win the game.
Now, I'll tell you what, though, if this game is a one possession game or even something like, and let's say this is still one possession, but just like within 2 or 3 points, you may see both of these teams get into the playoff if it's that close. So
Yeah. I think
keep an eye.
This is, you just said something that I think is interesting. If Ohio State gets out early and they get in a rhythm and momentum is on their side, this could be a game where they score 50 and it's a blowout.
Yeah.
If they don't get in a rhythm and everything just feels choppy, kind of the way it has all season compared to what we're used to with Ohio State, it just feels like they're skipping shifts, like their transmission just is getting worn and worn and worn and worn and worn. If this is a tight game, you rely on the bigs. And I think the Michigan bigs are just a little better than the Ohio State bigs. So if this game's close, I think Michigan wins, but definitely I'm a little worried on that pick if Ohio State scores 2 or 3 touchdowns early.
All right. With that being said, our real game of the week, the one that everyone's been talking about, the one that you got multiple Heisman candidates, you've got multiple playoff implications, New Year's Six Bowl implications. The battle for the Old Oaken Bucket between the Purdue Boilermakers and the Indiana Hoosiers at Memorial Stadium, 3:30 p.m., Big Ten Network. Purdue is a 10.5-point favorite. I do believe somebody tweeted that it was 17 earlier this week. I don't know if that's true because it's a big jump, but it's currently sitting at 10.5 with the over-under set at 54. With that being said, and we do give scores, obviously, for Indiana games, what is our final prediction for the Hoosiers this season? And we are starting with none other than Dustin Schutte.
Well, we had last year, Mitchell predicted this game, Indiana 0, Purdue -12. So
that's right.
That was fun.
Didn't happen.
Mitchell said something about this. I don't know if it was early in the show or if it was before we actually kicked it off, but Purdue's got a lot to play for potentially this weekend. I actually think that what happens on Friday between Iowa and Nebraska could be a factor in this game.
Yeah.
I think if Nebraska beats Iowa, I think Purdue might steamroll Indiana, knowing that they have a chance to play for the Big Ten West title. I think Jeff Brom can get that team fired up. Now, I think the opposite happens if Iowa wins. If Iowa wins and Purdue can't get to the Big Ten West, I think it's tougher. You got to go on the road. You don't really have anything to play for other than, I shouldn't say you don't have anything to play for, but your bubble is burst a little bit. So there's a little bit of disappointment. It's not like it's happening 2 hours before kickoff so you can shield your players from it. It's a full day. They're going to know the result and whether or not they have a chance to go to Indianapolis. Having said that,
Indiana, we're all for you. Bring it on, Dustin.
Purdue throws the ball really well. Indiana's secondary is not that good. I actually think Indiana's offense will move the ball against Purdue, but I think Purdue wins 34-23.
I hate that guy.
Half-point cover.
Whatever.
All right. Here's the deal. Y'all know how
I love how you say "here's the dealer." That's like your thing now. I don't know if you noticed that, but you always say "here's the."
Well,
deal.
He's always got so much research. This really is the deal. Mine comes straight from the hip.
This really is the deal.
Call me, I don't know, the guy who hosts Let's Make a Deal, because I might be that guy at this point. What's his name?
Howie Long, right? Howie Long. Howie Mandel.
Howie Mandel. That's Deal or No Deal.
Oh, no. This is Wayne Brady. He hosts Let's Make a Deal. Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
both way off.
What I was gonna say before I was interrupted. I am actually not. I am known for being analytical on this show. I have a different rationale for this pick, and I know this is the biggest game of the year, guys. I can't. All thanks to Dustin Schutte for providing the ammunition for this pick this week, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull up a nice little photo to reveal my pick.
Uh-oh.
Come on, baby.
Yeah! This weekend.
Baby.
It's going to be amazing, and I hope they recreate this pick with somebody, but that is our very own Mitchell Page.
Looking like Slim Shady.
Was that some sort of Eminem starter pack? Were you in a boy
That's
band?
our bucket, Dustin. And you know what I did with that hair the next year? kept it in Bloomington too. That's our bucket. You get out of here with your Purdue Pete, scary mustache. We had enough of them, okay? We had enough. Indiana's going to win by 1 million, and that's it. There's nothing left to it. I don't care. We can go all analytical. If Iowa loses, Purdue's going to get beat even worse because Indiana knows now that we can just give me that. Mark Deal. Do you guys know who Mark Deal is?
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. If
The king
Iowa
of the
gets
bucket.
beat, Mark Deal may be the starting linebacker for Indiana. He may start in place of Cam Jones. Indiana, there is zero chance on the planet after last week. You get some momentum. You're riding high. You have your best week of practice. You think about that week. I can't tell you guys how awesome that week is. Every night there's something where you have a history lesson basically of the bucket. We have this in the locker room. There's this essentially shrine where the bucket sits. And when you have it, it sits there all year and it does its slow turn. And when it's not there, it still turns and there's nothing there. So they're going to bring that thing in front and center in the team room. And I guarantee on Sunday when they had their first meeting or Monday morning, whenever their schedules are now, that thing was sitting in there. The lights were off except for the lights up front. And it was just on that empty bucket case. And the meeting was, this is it. Let's go to work. That was it. That's all they needed. Every night you're going to build and build and build. They've got so much momentum. You've got a quarterback that can run it all over the place. Jeff Brom, get out of here. Go back to West Lafayette. You're done. Indiana, 1,012,000. Purdue, 0. That's
Joe,
it.
did you give a score for your pick?
He agrees. 1,012,000 to 0.
50 zip. So
Slide.
So we're not giving real scores.
1,012,000 to 0. We might
wait,
be
we're
scoring
doing
for the
real
next
scores
year.
after 0 to -12.
Yeah,
I feel
last year
that's
we were
one of
not
the-
very good. Now we're back. We're the best team in the world.
We're back.
My analysis is Tom Allen analytics, and that is his teams do the best when they're riding a momentum high. And I think that's what's going to happen this week. You're at home. Even though the fan base is, they're not as excited as they were 2 years ago. They are excited just knowing that there was something to watch last week and there was a result that they got. And I think you may not see a sold out Memorial Stadium. Don't count your chickens for that. But I think you're going to see people excited, even though one thing, we're not going to get into this. We don't have time. Having the game on Thanksgiving week with no students or minimal students, but it may not affect the amount of crowd showing up regardless. But I have Indiana getting the victory as well, 24-21 on a rainy afternoon in Bloomington to give their final record of 5-7 with momentum that you would not have expected them to have going into the offseason. So, and that's all that matters. At this point, you are looking big picture next season. How can you actually take that next step forward in 2023?
Yeah.
So,
Joe, can you play the fight song on the way out for this one?
Oh, goodness.
How hard is that to
I don't
queue
know
up?
if I have-
No, I think Indiana will, or the university will probably flag the video if we do that. I don't know.
Didn't you want us to just sing it?
Don't.
Oh,
Don't.
God. No,
Are we
we're not.
supposed to? Are we supposed to give Joe 3 games here to pick?
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
got.
yeah.
I know we're over. Dustin always
I'm
says.
still very able.
He said
to
we
do
have good college basketball on. We got to get this done under an hour. We're over
All right.
an hour at this point. But
Who's going first?
so he has to do 3 games.
3 games, one from each.
Each of us picks one. So go
Well,
ahead.
I'm going with what I said earlier, and it's number
Tulane.
21 Tulane at number 25 Cincinnati. Cincinnati
spread?
2-point favorite. 2-point favorite Cincinnati at home.
Okay. Tulane is an interesting team this year. Obviously, no one picked them to be where they're at right now. They have some of the best uniforms in college football, and I will ride that train until I die because the Green Wave is freaking awesome.
Ugliest
And
logo.
I believe
though.
it is in Louisiana, right?
I believe it's in Cincinnati. Am I mistaken when I look at this?
No. Tulane University is in Louisiana.
Oh yeah, they're in Louisiana. Yes.
It's also a very high academic school, which I did not know until a little bit ago. It takes a lot to get into Tulane. So With that being said, give me the green wave to upset the Bearcats. Not that that's really an upset. I mean, 2 points, but at Cincinnati, I think the crowd will be a little bit lower. Again, this is a Thanksgiving week game. We've said that for both of these. So home field advantage is not going to be that big of a factor. So give me Tulane to win and cover.
I was trying to find the biggest spread on here, but I'm not finding anything of like 40 points. All right. I'm going to go with where to go? Here we go. Utah, Colorado. Utah is a 29.5-point favorite.
Is it at Utah?
No, it's at Colorado.
29 points is a lot of points, but Colorado is also one of the worst teams in college football this year. Do they only have just the one win?
Yes, they are 1-10.
So I'm going to imagine that this is Utah versus Northwestern. And with I think that
Ricochet shot there.
Oh man, and I don't know. But also I don't know if y'all heard this. Deion Sanders has been in talks with Colorado, so that could be happening next season. Maybe, who knows? But
Every
I do
team's in
think
talks
Utah
with
is a
Deion
very good
Sanders,
team.
according
What was
to
that?
Twitter. Nothing. Just forget my stupid comment. Go ahead.
I think Utah can score a lot of points. Again, I talked about Pac-12 offenses being very high-powered this year. I think Utah is no different, and they have something to play for. New Year's Six Bowl, so I think they want to go off in their last game of the season before the Pac-12 championship game. So give me Utah to cover the 29-point spread.
Like it. And we're going to end the show with a nod to Kevin Johns.
Okay.
Wake Forest coming to Durham. 3.5-point favorites. Duke's played tough. Just got beat last week at Pittsburgh, 28-26. Failed a 2-point conversion basically in the last minute. What you think?
So, just released today on some recruiting sites, Sam Hartman is reportedly looking at maybe transferring or going to the draft next year. The team that he is looking at is located in Dustin Schuette's current home residence in Gainesville, Florida. So he could be a Gator next year, according to some people. So that's an interesting headline to look at going into this game. Also, Wake Forest has struggled to end the season. And I think that if all Mitchell has said about this guy, I think that Duke is a very good, high-powered football team. Wake Forest has struggled. Man, give me Duke to win this game.
Dukies, baby. Kevin Johns is going to pull it out for you. If he doesn't, I'm going to be very mad at him.
Send him some mean tweets.
I'm going to send him a
All
mean
right.
tweet.
I guess that's going to be a wrap on season 2 of This Week in Indiana Football. Last year we did an off-season update once the dust kind of settled with transfers and coaching changes. So we may do that here in a couple of months, depending on if, what interesting things go down. But thanks to everyone who stuck with us this year. Again, a second year. Super fun and hilarious, as you hopefully got out of that tonight. Thanks to Dustin for joining every week, Mitchell for joining every week and joining every week this season, and Joe, the law firm Lincoln, for driving the bus all year long for us as well. So thanks to all of you. Remember, what's our hashtag this week? Something about a mustache, right?
My
Mitchell?
father's mustache.
Hashtag my father's mustache. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.